try to give them to us. Yeah. So he'll be a guy that, if he shows up and does the exact right thing, he can win the fight. If he don't do the right thing, which I don't see him doing, I don't know why he would at this point in his career.
Crawford took the moving up in weight classes serious. He did the dieting, he did the training. So I feel like when you put in work like that,
let's call a spade, right? When you get bigger, you do slow down a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be ineffective at that weight. I think it's a bona fide good point to make. Sometimes it does wind up that way, but I'll give you Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. Put on weight, was muscular as he moved up the weight classes, and it didn't affect him.
Roy Jones Jr. says Canelo Alvarez no longer has the energy and sharpness he once did. He's disappointed with how Canelo looks now and questions why he seems to have faded at this stage of his career. In contrast, Jones praises Terence Crawford's focus, hunger, and elite skills. He believes weight difference won't matter because Crawford's technique, timing, and ring IQ can cancel out any size advantage. For Jones, facing a fighter as sharp and relentless as Crawford will expose Canelo's current weaknesses, making this fight more dangerous than most expect.
It'll all be predicated upon how well Terence can take his punch. Yeah. And what I'm seeing is I see a hungry Crawford, a Crawford that has been looking for the opportunity for a long time, finally getting the opportunity, and really ready to grab the opportunity. And with Canelo, I see a guy who not necessarily hungry, but loves to entertain, loves to give us the big fights. Yeah. Always tries to give the big fights. He finds a way to give us big fights. Not gonna always win them, but he always tries to give them to us. Yeah. So he'll be a guy that, if he shows up and does the exact right thing, he can win the fight. If he don't do the right thing, which I don't see him doing, I don't know why he would at this point in his career. I don't know. It'll all be predicated upon how well Terence can take his punch.
Yeah. You said you don't think, or you don't look into the weight difference. Why?
When you know how to box, when you're as skillful as Terence Crawford is, weight don't really matter much.
Jones warns that if Canelo walks into the ring overconfident, thinking a win over Crawford is a sure thing, he could be in for a rude awakening. Underestimating Crawford's skill and strategy, he says, could lead to a tough and possibly punishing night for Canelo.
It's a hard one to call, and I'm going to tell you why it's a hard one to call. It's a hard one to call because it'll all be predicated upon how Canelo approaches the fight. If Canelo approaches the fight like he's the man and he can box and outbox Terence Crawford, he'll get beat. If he comes out and shows that he really wants to go out and prove the world he's still the best, he might win. So it all depends on which Canelo comes to the dance.
Olympic boxer Omari Jones says Crawford will win. He believes Crawford's weight game is different from most fighters moving up. Instead of packing on size carelessly, Crawford has planned it carefully, keeping his speed and agility while adding the right muscle. Jones says his diet, conditioning, and hard work have been spot on, making this move to a higher weight a smart one.
It's the grit, and me personally meeting Crawford several times, it's like the man is just so competitive. It's like I don't even have to say nothing to him. He'll just like, man, when we sparring, it's like his competitiveness is always gonna put him over the edge, and then he just has that like, I'm not gonna let you bully me, or his skill set. I know they talk about Charlo when Charlo moved up, but I feel like it may be a little bit different for Canelo this time around because Crawford took the moving up in weight classes serious. He did the dieting, he did the training. So I feel like when you put in work like that, it's a win-win. So
you don't think Crawford, gaining that weight, because I saw him, he's pretty big. You don't think that's going to be a disadvantage for him in this fight?
No, it looked like he put it on the right way.
Even with the challenge of facing a bigger man, Crawford's skill and discipline will let him adapt. Omari says Crawford isn't just bulking up, he's building a body that can carry the weight without losing his strengths. To him, this fight is proof that Crawford is willing to push himself to new limits and prove he can compete with one of boxing's toughest champions.
Right way. The nutrition, like I said, the training. Crawford, he trains hard, so I feel like, I know they say he probably went up to like 185, so he has to lose that weight, but I think if he did it the right way, which I know he did, he'll be successful in September.
And I know you, like we discussed earlier, you know, we talked with your pro debut, and now you're 3-0. Your last fight, July 19th against Blanco, and it was actually your third win by knockout.
Yes.
Super proud of you. How are you feeling about your pro career so far?
I'm feeling great about my pro career. I definitely feel like it's off to a great start. My pro debut in my hometown, and then I was my second fight, Atlantic City on the Boots card, and then my third fight on the Ben Rodriguez undercard. So Matchroom and Eddie Hearn, they're putting me on these cards, shining light on me, giving me the TV time.
Former champion Paulie Malignaggi has noticed Crawford's size transformation. He thinks it's an advantage. Crawford has gotten bigger without losing the quickness, footwork, and timing that define him. Malignaggi says most fighters slow down when they move up in weight, but Crawford hasn't.
You know, I mean, listen, let's call a spade, right? When you get bigger, you do slow down a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be ineffective at that weight. I think it's a bona fide good point to make. Sometimes it does wind up that way, but I'll give you Roy Jones Jr. You know, Roy Jones Jr. You know, put on weight, was muscular as he moved up the weight classes, and it didn't affect him. Good old Manny Pacquiao did the same thing, you know. So you know, there's times where it affects, and there's times where, you know, I guess if you put it on the right way. Only Crawford knows it because the way he's training, right? Because you're going to be sparring with this added weight. You're going to be doing the boxing training with this added weight. So you're going to know how to, you know, maybe taper it down if you need to, or keep it going if you need to. You know, I think over the course of camp, if you start to feel too yoked up, and, you know, you get big, and then, you know, you're sacrificing reflexes, you're sacrificing athleticism, I think you're going to feel it.
Crawford seems to have found the perfect balance, adding the power to deal with a bigger opponent like Canelo while keeping the agility needed for his style. Malignaggi credits this to his professionalism and training detail, saying the extra size might even give Crawford more punching power to handle Canelo's pressure.
Heavyweight kind of weight. What's your thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, well, Roy Jones is Roy Jones, but also Terence Crawford is Terence Crawford. But John Ruiz is not Canelo Alvarez. So that's another aspect of that comparison. And yes, you know, to exactly what the champ said, exactly what Abel Sanchez said, you know, you're going to put on weight, you're going to be a different fighter. And I could say this even as a fighter as myself. As I've gotten heavier in my retirement, I try and move around the gym. It just feels different. And even when you start camp, you feel different in the beginning than you do at the end. But listen, we're still 4 or 5 weeks away. I don't know exactly what Terence is weighing right now. And even if he does say what he weighs, man, he's gone out there and said he's weighed, you know, all types of crazy numbers just to get media to respond. So it's really not really going to know until the fight and we see these guys next to each other. He might look bigger right now, but he might not be that heavy.
Max Kellerman has broken down the fight from a technical view. He says Crawford's jab is one of the best in boxing, fast, precise, and able to control a fight's pace. While Canelo once had a sharp jab, Kellerman says it's faded. That difference gives Crawford an edge in range and scoring. He also calls Crawford a master of real-time adjustments, spotting openings that others miss.
Add attribute. First attribute, best jab.
Crawford.
Best defense.
Crawford. Nowadays, Crawford. I would say early in the fight, Canelo. And earlier in his career, Canelo. But he hasn't been that kind of fighter in recent years. Although Crawford is also hittable. With any fighter, when you talk about their defense, the question is not, can they be hit with a shot? You take punches. Everyone, the greatest defensive fighters ever get hit. Pernell Whitaker, Willie Pep, Floyd Mayweather, they all get hit. The question is, can you hit them with combinations? And both guys are hard to hit. With the two-piece, hard to hit.
So who has the best footwork out of the two?
In terms of cutting off the ring, last fight notwithstanding, Canelo has gotten much better at cutting off the ring.
Kellerman contrasts this with Canelo's reliance on size, strength, and power to dominate smaller men. If Crawford can slow Canelo's forward march and turn it into a thinking match, Kellerman says the fight will lean heavily in Crawford's favor. His mix of technical precision and fight IQ is one of his biggest weapons.
Early in his career, he had a problem with that and was much more comfortable counterpunching. But overall, I have to say Crawford. If you go down the list and ask me about tactical advantages, most of them are Crawford. What Canelo has is size, and as a result, physical strength and punching power. Canelo also has a great chin. But in terms of if you want to go skill for skill, especially the recent version of Canelo, who's had to turn into a seek and destroy guy, who had to learn as his career went on to cut off the ring and not just follow guys around. Like Lara, Trout, Floyd, he followed those guys around. He had trouble because he's really a natural counterpuncher who wants you to come to him. But in recent years at super middleweight, he's gotten really good at cutting off the ring. Again, last fight notwithstanding. So as an overall suite of skills, recent vintage, it's been Crawford.
Okay.
But Canelo also is skilled and has a larger skeleton.
Showbiz the Adult gives a balanced take. He respects Canelo's strength, work ethic, and ability to apply pressure while landing sharp counters. But he also praises Crawford's wrestling background, saying it helps him read opponents, counter their moves, and adapt when under fire.
Canelo uses his legs, he uses his core, and then his neck itself to lift up Bivol like Bivol was a featherweight. That is a huge representation of how strong Canelo is. When you look at his workouts, you can tell why he was able to do that. All these damn neck exercises that I wouldn't dare do. Okay, that stuff looks painful. The squatting and all that stuff that he's doing is exactly why Canelo Alvarez, honestly, is a strong fighter. He tried to do it again with William Skull. William Skull shook out of it, but he is a bull. Listen, Terence Bud Crawford is strong. He is, okay? And he understands leverage and he understands those things because he wrestled. Honestly, very true. But Saul Canelo Alvarez is also extremely strong.
Across boxing, one point stands out. Crawford's strategy will decide this fight. This is more than just another date on the calendar. It's a career-defining moment. Beating Canelo would erase doubts and lift Crawford into the all-time great conversation. To win, he must control distance, use angles, avoid risky trades, and wear Canelo down. Analysts say the fight will be won by the one who can stay composed and stick to the plan for all 12 rounds.
He understands that he has to be smart. And I think with this one specifically, it ain't just about being smart. He knows he has to look like he's never looked before. Because again, if he doesn't and he beats Canelo, everybody's just gonna say, well, that's Crawford. You know, so I think he knows that this is the performance of a lifetime and everything has to look right. He knows in order for it to look right, he can't just go out there and let the dog go. The dog is, you know, he got to work his way up to the dog. Hey, show the clip real quick. I don't know if you showed it already, but this is the dog you're talking about right here, right? And so this is, I pulled this clip right here. I seen it on social media this morning.
Don't do that. That's what I'm saying.
And I pulled this clip, right? But this is Terence.
That's who he is.
He's not gonna swing on Canelo. He already know that part of the game. But what I asked you, were you ever trying to send a message to your opponents? He's letting you know, and it's no act. And that's what I really wanted to show, is that's not an act.
No.
That's not, there's 30 security guards.
I don't know,
it
feels a little contrived.
You think so?
I think a lot of people feel it's a little like.
Well, I'm glad you used a big word that most of us don't know.
Hey, I don't fight as good as you guys. I had to learn some big words, right, to make up for that.
Don't look it up. Just ignore what he said.
You need big words to get out of fights. You know, you need big words to get out of fights. But you know, okay. So case in point, our guy Hafey, sitting right there, producer extraordinaire. He had a picture of Terence Crawford in New York for the Crawford-Spence press conference. And there was this look, when Terence, he gave this look to Spence that reminded me of like Dwight Muhammad Qawi and a young George Foreman and